As we are well past the 5th year anniversary of No Man's Sky, and we are making it into a new year, it is time to revive the LZ and talk about our hopes and dreams for content and support from Hello Games for this beautiful project we love that's No Man's Sky. And let's talk about those hopes and dreams right now. My fellow travelers, you have survived the gauntlet that was the year 2021, and so happy that you did, and welcome back to the LZ. I'm thinking about you all and hope you all are well and safe. And once again, it's time to get together and talk about that one thing I know you and I love so much. With the new year comes a new No Man's Sky, an abundance of updates and support, and in this video, I would like to get together and talk about 5 or 6 things that I would love to see from this game in the year 2022. Stay to the end when we have a really uncomfortable talk about a little topic that we should probably start thinking about. Now, this list that I've come up with, probably not everything that you're all going to agree with, and some of you might have been on board since day one. Some of these things I will echo from previous years. In the interest of shamelessly begging, hoping that No Man's Sky creators Hello Games have seen this video or will see this video. But nonetheless, it is great discourse for a great community to have, so why don't we get into it? One of the first things that I wish and hope that Hello Games would pay attention to for content updates for No Man's Sky this year is ships. Now, it would be unfair to say that Hello Games haven't paid some level of attention to ships over the previous years for their content updates. But in most of those updates, ships have been more of a secondary thought to a more primary feature set with each update that did allow for ship advancement or ship growth. They increased the size of ships. They gave a couple of different more ships. There was one update that was completely dedicated to ships, which was the Living Ship update, which is pretty interesting. Now, I do know that the community is largely split on how ships and a ship-directed update should be handled. For the large part, I know that most folks are either for ship customization or even ship building, or they aren't. Some say introducing a concept of ship customization or ship building would harm the RNG aspect of the game, and to a degree, I would agree. I don't think that it harms it in the way that a lot of people would suggest that it would. To me, the aspect of ship hunting is, well, okay, but I've never really been one to prey on luck and hope that luck brings me the optimal experience. To be fair to Hello Games, they have done things to help advance with the RNG, with the idea of growing ship rankings and inventory, which was definitely welcome. But if I'm being honest, those kinds of updates really left me wanting more, and I'm seeing a lot of potential with what we could do for ships. Now, I might have said this last year, but I feel like I have the perfect solution for the argument between whether we should have shipbuilding or not. And honestly, the best way that I would handle this would be to do the ship customization and ship building through the RNG method, exactly like they did with bases. And that's pouring just a metric ton of ship assets into the game to just rebuild the randomization of these ships again. The Frontiers update was kind of a mixed bag for me. It was a little short on the sort of fanfare for what an anniversary update would be, but what it technically did do was greatly expand base building, and I would love to see them do the same thing that Frontiers and the Origins update did, which was just dump a bunch of assets in for the case of the RNG to expand the building of worlds and the building of concepts for things like flora and fauna on planets. It really introduced a great expansion for the exploration side of things. I would love to see them do that for ships as well. Ships could use a lot of attention, and I would love to see Hello Games start there. The second thing that I would like to see Hello Games focus on No Man's Sky in 2022 is expeditions and the Nexus missions. Now, in my review of the 2021 year for No Man's Sky, I had said that I absolutely enjoyed the expeditions updates. When it comes to player engagement, the expeditions updates and the expeditions feature probably does the most player engagement that there is. I would like to see expeditions be a more permanent fixture, something that doesn't really have a limited time. When you think about that, like a season pass, like for Halo Infinite, that the season pass just lives forever. I would like to see expeditions created and then just continue as is. But I'd also like to see them be done within one save file and not a separate save file. I'm not sure how that would look or how that could be done exactly. That might eliminate the core aspect of an expedition, but the general idea of an expedition and bringing players together to sort of collectively create or complete their own objectives, I think is really unique, and I really enjoy the time that I have together with folks, even though I'm not directly interacting with them. Another improvement that I'd like to see with expeditions is having more reasons for players to play together versus just playing around each other. Putting all of these players on one path together doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to engage. As a matter of fact, I've never seen one set of players come together to do any one thing because the objectives that they're accomplishing doesn't ask them to. A more community-driven focus, more than just an individual, just sort of completing their own objectives while surrounded by other players, might improve expeditions greatly if it's done correctly. The same for Nexus missions could be said, too. The Nexus missions are great in concept, but very flawed in the idea that it's just, hey, maybe we can get together and do the same things that we're doing together or not together in the game right now. Perhaps partnering together at the Nexus to do expeditions together might be a bigger draw. The third thing I'd like to see some focus on in No Man's Sky in 2022 is more dungeons. You will hear me singing this until the end of time, but the Desolation update is still my favorite update for No Man's Sky, and it happened like 2 or 3 years ago. This update introduced the Derelict Freighter, a freighter that is just floating, broken, and dead in the middle of space that you can explore, get loot from, fight enemies on. It's still the best update based on engagement for players, giving something for you to want to push forward through to explore. It's a great co-op concept. If I've ever been critical of No Man's Sky about anything over the years, it has been that, and the Desolation update delivered to fix that in spades. Now, I would love to see that done to more aspects of the game. Derelict space stations exist on No Man's Sky. I would love to see that expanded. Planet-side dungeons would be absolutely wonderful. It would be a super good excuse to let Hello Games let their procedural generation legs really get some exercise. The fourth thing I'd love to see some attention to is filling in some of the blanks that previous updates have left. If you've been a long-time No Man's Sky player like me, you know that there are several things that have been added to the games that haven't really been fleshed out yet. A previous update in the 2021 update feature set added some kind of thing to all space stations that allow you to input some kind of key, an actual key that a previous expedition allows you to have but doesn't function. A lot of players thought that something like this was going to be addressed in a follow-up update, and it hasn't since. If you're a day one player, you probably would compare it to something like Portals when the game launched. It had portals, there were portals on planets, and they do nothing. But the worst part is that Hello Games never said anything about what a portal should and should not do, so all of us, like a bunch of dummies, are walking around planets pushing around giant golden orbs trying to solve a puzzle that just couldn't be solved. The same goes for boundary failures as well. Boundary failures were added in the first couple of years of No Man's Sky's life, and they barely do anything. There's quite a bit of things in No Man's Sky that kind of serve an inexplicable purpose. They're there for window dressing and little else. I would absolutely love to see what Hello Games can do with these things that kind of serve no purpose at the moment, and for these empty features to really show some kind of potential. Now, I've spent this whole list talking about things that I would love to see about updates in the game, but I want to talk about now for the fifth thing, something that I really wouldn't like to see. There has been a lot of quality of life updates to No Man's Sky over the years. Even just in recent updates in 2021, there was an advancement of quality of life features, things like graphical updates to Spark and Dusts and things like that. I'm calling it now, and this may be something that you disagree with, but I really think that No Man's Sky is kind of hit a wall with quality of life. If anything, I would say that No Man's Sky is in the best position that it has ever been in its 5 years of life, and if Hello Games continues or wants to continue to support this game over the years, personally, I would feel like there's no more need to look back, other than the previous item of maybe filling in some of the blanks that previous updates have left, but to things like combat and ship maneuvers and how pretty the dust is, user interface navigation. I would really pose the question, does all of these things really need any more attention? Or would it just be better to just look forward and think about what new content can be added versus what content needs to be improved that maybe doesn't need it? And then finally, let's talk about the possibility, the subject of something that I think quite a few of you maybe don't want to hear. We are inching ever closer to the 6th year of No Man's Sky. We already know that Hello Games is working on 1 or even 2 more ambitious projects, and they're not a very big team. Throw in there the giant elephant in the room that is navigating a global pandemic, and it really has me wondering just how much more life does No Man's Sky have in it? Just how much longer is Hello Games willing to support No Man's Sky? It's really hard to say when Sean Murray and his fellow team are just going to sort of just throw their arms up and be like, you know what, we're feeling good about this. We could probably stop here. Sean and team themselves have said that they only continue making a game that they feel energized to keep making. Which could mean anything. I mean, they had enough energy to continue working on this game for 4 more years after launch. So as far as we know, Hello Games and Sean Murray could be very well energized for the next 5 years. But at what cost would that have to their existing working projects that have yet to be revealed? One of which is a super ambitious product that Sean Murray started developing on like a few years ago. It's just something that I felt like I had to throw out there. We're 5.5 years through this game's development and support, and it just kind of makes you wonder, just how long are they planning on doing this before they decide to move on completely to new projects? Well, what do you think, everybody? What do you think of our list today? Do you think ships can get a gigantic, just an exploratory update, dump a bunch of assets in there and expand ships greatly? What do you think about expeditions and Nexus missions improving? Would you like to see more dungeons or expansions on dungeons? How much energy do you think that they should put into filling in some of the blanks that previous updates have left? And do you think that this is the end? Do you think we're getting close to the end of support for No Man's Sky? I'd love to hear you down in the comment section below. And once again, thank you so much for stopping back by the LZ. See you in the next one.